Hi and welcome to the Recruitment and Beyond Podcast. My name's Ewan Anderson. I'm the Marketing Director here at Eden Scott. This is your essential guide to navigating the ever-changing world of human resources and recruitment. We chat with industry-leading figures to give you the inside track on growing and developing the very best teams. This week, we chatted with friend of the podcast, Hayley Reaper, People Lead at Create Future, on the importance of the right career development plans and how they help to retain the very best talent. Hi, welcome back to the Recruitment and Beyond Podcast. Joined again today by Hayley Reaper from not X Design, Create Future.
Oh,
yes, that was close. That was close. We're in to talk today to Hayley about career development plans. So welcome, Hayley. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Ewan. Thanks for having me back. I can't believe that's probably almost been a year since the first one. I'm sure it was January. So
that's right.
Right.
Where's the time gone? That's what happens when you're busy, isn't it?
That's what happens. Time flies when you're having fun. That's
what they say. That's what they say. No, absolutely. So listen, today we wanted to just chat about career development plans. I think a crucial part of obviously any HR team, but involved in just developing the team and ensuring that there's that, you can attract the right people in, but obviously then to retain them and ensure that they want to stay with your organization. And Create Futures is really kicking on and developing a great business there. And clearly the last time we spoke, you were getting a lot of applications coming into you. They didn't need any kind of support with that because people really recognize the brand and saw it growing and developing. And so I suppose then it's thinking about, well, how do we keep that great talent and develop them? So from a career development plan, is that on your agenda? Is that part of what you're doing as part of your team just now in your HR team?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're on, obviously they're well on the priority list at our agenda at Create Future, but I actually think they should be on every business's agenda. It's so important, isn't it, those development plans, just fostering that culture, which is something we continue to work on at Create Future. But that culture of continuous learning is absolutely fundamental to our culture. And to that feeling of belonging with our people as well. So I think, it's definitely a priority on the agenda and really important.
Is it hard to kind of make that leap or that connection between, say, a career development plan and continuous learning and then the business objectives? Is it hard to knit that together? I presume you have to present some of this to the board, you have to present this to a working group, whatever it might be, to get buy-in from people. Is it hard to make that connection, or is there quite is there a link there that you can show?
I think there can be a link. I think development plans can also help bridge maybe personal career goals, and they can help make that link to the business's strategic objectives as well, and getting that overall alignment. And that then sort of allows your people to contribute more meaningfully. They ensure that what they're doing, that's filtering into the bigger picture, isn't it? And they're making that difference to the business as a whole as well. And at the same time, they're developing the skills that are valuable to the company's success as well as theirs, as well as the clients, the bottom line. So I think it's really important. And I think if ever, you have to put a plan forward to the board for sign off, for example, well, first and foremost, you want to retain your top talent, your best people. They're your biggest asset that you want to invest in. It's your people's growth and development. That progression, the skills development is absolutely huge for our people at Create Future. They are, if any of them are watching, I'm not just saying this, but they are technically brilliant individuals. They always want to better themselves. So if we can empower them to do so, I am all for that, because like I said, in turn, they will do better work for our clients. So empowering them to have that control over their work, their career trajectory, which also makes them more engaged project teams as well. I just think it's so important for HR leaders, for HR teams to be investing in.
Does it matter in terms of where you are in your career? Is it, do you find that it's more when people are coming in at early stage of their career, they want to know that career development opportunities there? Or is it, does it matter, as people get to that management level? Obviously there's different aspects of what they're looking to learn, but does everybody now looking for that as they come in and they want to start working for a Create Future?
Yeah, I think if I had our talent lead on this call, they would be saying that they're asked that a lot. What would my career look like at Create Future? How can I progress? It's really in this generation, it's all about that learning and development. So I think it's really great to be able to take in more junior employees and watch their career thrive as they progress through as well. But also, I don't think the learning stops, the development stops at any level. I've been in the people profession for 7 years, and I still feel like I'm showing up to work every day and learning something every day. Every day is a school day still, isn't it? I'm just learning different things. I may be learning more about people leadership, about coaching and mentoring the more junior members of the team, rather than being the one that's mentored. So I think there is always a balance, regardless of seniority. I'm sure our chief people officer would say that they are still learning things every day as well. They're just learning different things based on their role.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it doesn't matter what career sector you're in. What sector you're in. I think everybody's wanting to learn and develop and grow. And I know that from a marketing point of view, it's continually evolving and developing, and you need to stay on top of it, don't you? But I guess it's aligning that learning and then with career development. How really being structured about it and really understand what do you need to do to get to the next step, or even take a sidestep into a different area. So I suppose that was where we wanted to go with this next, is just to really understand what are the key elements of a good development plan, a career development plan.
Yeah, I don't think for a well-executed sort of career development plan, I don't think you need to have a massive budget if that's what you're worried about. Of course, budget helps. It always does. It opens up more opportunities, maybe different tools to use. I'm thinking about things like maybe LinkedIn Learning for your people. Like, that's obviously a cost associated. But I think as well, there's so much that people can own themselves for their development. So as a bit of an example of what we do at Create Future, and I think I did touch on this back in January when we had just started. So we've evolved this performance framework a little bit more. In 2023, we created a performance framework, and it's called Own Your Own Potential, OYOP, OYOP. I can't say OYOP because it reminds me of that fruit, that like yogurt drink. But anyway, everyone in the business is very familiar with it now. This is about 12 months, 14 months, like well into that journey. And that encompasses a whole host of areas. So we're talking feedback, we're talking performance-based success ratings, progression, promotion, tools, learning, growth, self-advocacy, and so much more. It's a real umbrella framework, and all of your everyday can flow into that. And what that means for our people, that means proactivity. They're setting their goals, they're pursuing what learning works for them, they're driving their development forward. We are looking at embracing feedback. We're seeking out, we are learning and growing for that feedback. We want to build a culture where everyone feels comfortable getting that constructive input. That's how we learn, that's how we grow, that's how we develop. And also clear expectations. So people understand what is expected for growth, what's expected within their role profiles, their competency frameworks, their career pathways, for example. And it also means it's their pace. So we know everyone develops differently. There is no race, there is no comparison. It is their unique path to success and development. And that means it gives them autonomy. They are driving their development. They're in the driver's seat, focusing on the activities that resonates with them, brings them joy, and you can expand your network, like connecting with colleagues across the business outside of your project team, your department. You're building those relationships. Gives you a bit of career calibration. Like, development isn't just about promotion. OYOP lets you tailor your growth to your broader career aspirations, like you mentioned, maybe a bit of a sideways step rather than up all the way, a bit of T-shaped development there as well. And that flexibility, we know life happens. I'm a working mum, we get it. Sometimes you have to drop everything and go and school run, or he's been sick at school, brilliant. So like, if you need to take some time off and just take your foot off the pedal, slow down a little bit, that's fine. Adapt. We just allow people to develop at their own pace, and we've created quite a lot of tools to help people own their own potential as well, like competency frameworks. There's no cost associated with those. That's just a timing thing to bring them all together, and that's where they can review their current performance, see what they need to accomplish to be maybe promoted if that's where they want to go. If they don't want to be promoted, that's also fine. Like I mentioned, LinkedIn Learning for online courses. We have that dedicated learning time and some budgets as well. And a bit of a change what we've implemented this year with our learning strategy is we've tiered our learning to like foundational learning. So think your compliance training, if you think of foundational, personal, something you personally want to learn about for me in my role, and then strategic learning. So that's something the business needs you to learn. So currently we're doing a big push on AI. So everybody within Create Future has to complete their AI course. And Jeff, if you're watching, I'm halfway through, so nearly there. So it's really good to break down the learning in that way as well.
Yeah. That's fascinating. They own your own potential. I think it gives people the freedom, but there must have been. I mean, how do you go about starting something like that? Is that a blank sheet and saying that, because there's a lot to connect there? You know, you've got your performance management as well, or not performance management, but your appraisals and so on. You've got your job specs. That all needs to be prepared before people come in, don't they? So I mean, I know you're saying this has been going for 12, 14 months now, but there must have been a lot of work going in at the start to really pull that framework together. Yeah. And it seems to me it's all based around learning, and that, you know, your whole job is based around learning to then develop and grow. Would that be right? And where do you start with something like that? And say, right, let's connect the dots.
Do you know what I'm saying? 12 to 14 months. Time really does fly. We actually started it, I think, in March last year. So it's a little bit longer than that. And obviously there was a lot of thought, a lot of work has gone into it as well from so many people across the business. But what we did, we phased it, because you can't do everything at once. So phase one was, well, how are we going to know if people are doing well in their roles? Well, we probably should have a competency framework, shouldn't we, for each grade and each role, and probably some core competencies as well, which I'll come on to later. So that's obviously a bit of work. So we were partnering with our leaders, with our departments, to get a bit of a V1 of a competency framework. Now I think we're on a V3 at this point, so they have evolved. That's not just one piece of work you do once and that's it, because roles change as the business changes. We then decided, we had job ads for recruitment, but we should probably get job descriptions as well off the back of these new competency frameworks. We call them role profiles. Well, our team had to write 100 role profiles as well. Yeah, it's been a lot of work to be where we are today. So then we thought, right, well, we've got a competency framework, we've got role profiles. We can probably now introduce success ratings, which is our end of year performance, because we now have something we can measure people against properly. Now that has been very trial and error. We've, on reflection, we maybe made mistakes as a business rolling that out without getting input from everybody. It was quite not rushed, but we did have quite a tight turnaround. So we maybe didn't take people on the journey as much as we normally do with some change, but we have definitely learnt from that. So that was that. Everybody got a success rating in January this year, which was also linked to salary, which was something new as well. So there's obviously the emotion and the conversations that we have to have there as well. Then we spent the first couple of months of this year doing some focus groups and some retros on how we can improve that for this year. We created journals for people's self-advocacy off the back of that feedback, so they can document all the great things that they're doing and share that with their manager. So their manager, because within Create Future, your manager doesn't necessarily work with you on the day-to-day on your project. And some of our engineering teams, so they found it quite difficult to know how they're performing. They have to rely on their project manager. So we introduced journals from that point of view as well. We also introduced a mid-year rating. So we have a bit of a touch point at the 6th month mark this year, to give you a bit of an indicator of your trajectory towards the end of the year, which would be more formal. And also, if nothing else, a little bit of a practice run, which has made it much more of an easier transition for this year. We've still done some training, shared some documents, but we will get to a point where these ratings, they just become BAU. Each time we do it, it gets easier. We act on feedback, we learn from the feedback, and we adapt. And who knows next year? I think we've done a V3. We could be on phase 4 next year. Mentoring, coaching, like you say, everything. You can link everything back to your own potential if you really wanted to, some way or another.
Absolutely. And I think actually, so just touching on that, because that was one of the questions we were going to talk about. What does success look like? But you've kind of mapped it out there really well. But because you're going through those iterations and you're changing and you're just adapting as you go, as you know, as you should. Has it been sometimes hard to bring people with you? You know, because obviously it's quite an emotional thing when you're, you know, a success rate, and it sounds great, but obviously it's aligned to salary and bonuses and whatever else. It's quite an emotional thing. Has it been a challenge bringing people with you on that and knowing fine well that you're going to go through some changes, or has maybe support from leadership really ironed some of those challenges out? Has that helped?
I think with any change, you need that buy-in from leadership, don't you? And they've been great and continue to be great as we evolve on your own potential. I think overall it's gone well, but yeah, I think, you know, more communication was maybe needed at some point. But I think we've definitely learned from that with the focus groups, and showing also people as well, like, this is what you said and this is what we've done about it. You said last year that only the line manager could input. Where's the self-advocacy? Well, this year, here's your journal to input all of the great things you've done. And at the mid-year review, the individual got to input their proposed rating as well as the line manager. So I think just showing that you are listening to that feedback. And I think that's with any engagement. People go, oh, what's the point in feeding back? They're not going to do anything about it. But if you can show that you are listening, and off the back of that, this is what's changed, I think that's critical. And I think in terms as well, like what does good look like? Like, if you see people like progressing towards their individual goals as well, and like tracking their achievements, like with the journals, their long-term, their short-term goals, I think that just gives you some great insight as well. And as a manager, if you've set your direct reports some growth areas and they've absolutely smashed it, like that gives you a little bit of pride as well, doesn't it? Or they've got a promotion that you've advocated for. I think all of that builds into like an overall like success.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and it builds that trust. That I think you're you're absolutely right. That two-way communication to say, you know, you've suggested this, we've implemented this, or, you know, if it wasn't quite right, we've taken your idea, we've kind of adapted it, and here's the result of that. Thanks for the feedback, kind of thing. Because you're absolutely right. Nothing worse than feedback just disappearing into a black hole and thinking, well, what is the point? And I think that's a really valuable point, is increasing that communication to just highlight, this is what you said, this is what we did, and helping it to evolve. Do you help people create some time for that as well? So obviously, you know, going forward, you've got to have time to kind of do some of the career development stuff, you know, whether it's additional learning or even just a wee bit of time to write in your journal. I know it can be one of those things, reflection. I've been talking to my team quite a bit about reflection recently, and just taking that time to take, you know, 20 minutes at the end of the day or whatever it might be, and just reflect on what's been happening. I presume you try and help people create that time for journal writing or whatever it might be.
Yeah, absolutely. Even those that are putting their time into our kind of time tracking system, for example, you can still have like internal miscellaneous for input in your journal, giving feedback maybe via our engagement platform. And I think it's so important, because if you don't put time in for it, you just don't do it. And I'm my own worst enemy. I like, obviously you don't get many meetings. Well, we don't on a Friday afternoon. So at 4 o'clock every Friday, I just put 30 minutes in, and I'm like, focus time, complete journal. And it also means that I just look back over that week. Now, there might not be anything that week for me to input, but I'd much rather that than wait 3 months, and then it's a much bigger task, more time consuming for me to have to put that detail in.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%, and just giving yourself that wee bit extra time. But I suppose talking to the team and making them feel like, you know, I can put that time in place. I think sometimes everybody's under a lot of pressure and get things done and whatever, and they don't see it as, it's one of those things, I'll do it later, you know. But it's an invaluable part of development and growth, isn't it? And giving people the reassurance that they can take that time. We're happy for you to take that time, you know, take that 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and we've been really clear in that to ensure that people feel confident they can take the time. But also, we had feedback again, oh, the journal doesn't work for me. Some people are more creative, right? You know, so we're like, well, if you want to do Miro, I actually don't mind how you evidence all your accomplishments this year. Just evidence them. If that's a Google Doc, if that's because that's how you work, if that's a visual, something beautiful with shapes and pop-ups, I don't know. Like, as long as it is getting across what you've done, so your manager has a better idea of your performance, you go for it.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I was going to ask, actually, just around the challenges of implementing this. And you've touched on some of them, but you know, if you've got someone who's not interested in that and not that it seems like the culture you've created there is very much around, we want people to develop personally and professionally and grow. And inevitably, sometimes people are just like, I'm quite happy, just let me be. Is that a challenge, or is that presumably that goes partly back to your recruitment around bringing in the right people and bringing in people who are ambitious and want to grow? Would that be right?
Well, yes. I mean, but we do. Listen, if someone is performing and they are performing well, but they're saying, Hayley, I don't want to be promoted. I am at the level that I am comfortable at, and I'm happy with my work-life balance. That is absolutely fine. Obviously, don't fall behind on the tech if it changes. A bit like HR, you can't fall behind on the legal changes and requirements, like the fundamentals and the basics of that role. But promotion isn't for everybody. Even progression to a degree isn't for everybody. So as long as you're doing your job well, which is our core rating for Own Your Own Potential, doing a great job, we're okay with that. And I think you do want you want motivation, you want engagement with things like this. Otherwise, they probably can falter a little bit. Or I think some of it as well is employees might lose interest because they fail to see the relevance, or they fail to see how it's going to help them if like maybe progression isn't visible. So I think that's where line managers play a really critical role here in ensuring that they're checking in with their direct report at least quarterly, not only from like a well-being perspective, but also how are you getting on with maybe those growth areas? Have you done any learning time recently? Maybe there's, and if they're not engaged or if they're disengaged, maybe we need to rethink one of the areas that they were interested in, or look at something else that maybe they're passionate about to get that spark back. It may just be that we were looking in the wrong area.
Absolutely. And I think that's, again, an interesting thing. You've given the employees time to develop that, write in their journal, whatever. But it's important that the managers take that time as well and see it as valuable time to actually just sit down with your employee and help them on that, help them on that journey. And again, see that as a valuable time, because again, as I say, there's lots going on, but that is a really important part of the process, isn't it? Because these little aspects, the little 1% there, the just taking time to sit with your team or writing in your journal, they all add up to that bigger picture of an organization built on, professional development and growth and learning. It sounds like that's exactly what you're trying to do there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, like if you ever got sort of any pushback again from the board, I think I mentioned like explain having like the pros far outweigh any cons in my opinion of having a personal development plan. Like if you want to retain your top talent to ensure they continue to develop, otherwise they'll just go somewhere else that will invest in their development. And then you've got costs for recruiting, onboarding, you've got potential client impact to consider as well. And I always, I used to work for Virgin many, many years ago. And one of my favorite Richard Branson quotes, like kind of ties into this as well, like train people well enough so they can leave, but treat them well enough so they don't want to. And I think development plays a crucial role here in how people feel within the business as well.
That's a really good point. Yeah, absolutely. And just touching back on the point that you were talking about, that some people, it's maybe not the right path they want to go on. Do you help people if they want to transition into maybe another part of the business? If you want to go from, and I don't know if you do this, but maybe want to go from a software development role into a marketing role. Appreciate their different skills, but is that there for that support? It always comes back to marketing,
I want to go and work with you in marketing. Yeah. So we have people within Create Future that have cross-skilled, for example. So that might be into another engineering capability, or they're learning another language. So knowing that their job is still very much their wheelhouse, but they've expanded their knowledge, which I never think is a bad thing. And they're learning about more engineering areas, meaning that we can also, like, they're more utilized in client work as well, which is very exciting for some people. They're more full stack engineers. So it's probably not quite a career change in that example. It's more a broadening of skills. But I think if it was a complete, like if I wanted to leave HR and go into marketing, like we'd need to look at the needs of the business, and if that could fit in with the company's vision and what our short-term plans are as well. And if we could, great. If we couldn't, there could be aspects of the role that the person could learn about while I still work. So I could stay in HR, but maybe you would be my mentor. So we'd have a couple of hours a month where you would teach me about the basics of marketing. So I'm still getting that interest.
Of course.
Still staying within my current role. And I think that's important as well.
No, absolutely. No, that makes total sense. And in terms of there's obviously personal development here as well, and keen to keep developing the individual themselves. Sorry, is that a key part of this as well? I know that for inclusive leadership and so on, it's important that the individual grows as much professionally as they do personally. Is there part of that within that career development plan that you pull together?
Yeah, I think professional and personal are quite linked, aren't they?
Yes.
I think they can interlink. I think they can be a bit interchangeable. Sometimes personal growth forms foundation for professional growth, and like I said, like in some scenarios they might run concurrently. I think it depends what role you're in, where you are in your career journey as well. But I think it's important to nurture the individual as much as the profession, if that makes sense. So by doing this, they'll get their personal development, but that will enrich their professional capability. So they get that well-rounded foundation that then supports their career, supports the business, and overall, I think probably career satisfaction as well.
Absolutely, and I think that's what people are looking for is that their job is such a big part of their life that they want to grow in both areas. So as they grow professionally, they grow personally as well, whether it's confidence, whether it's the ability to go and engage in different areas and different spheres of their life, or even just getting that personal professional development work-life balance, really developing the skills and the knowledge to allow you to have that freedom and that ability to or even look at other areas of development. It's something that's really important to the individual to help them. And I think when you have that feeling as an individual, you bring more to your work anyway, don't you? You have that confidence, I suppose, as much as anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I might read a book in my personal life. It's not necessarily a HR book, but I might just be reading it for pleasure rather than work. But I might read something in that, and I'm like, my goodness, I never thought of it that way. And I could actually take that and put that into a professional concept, and that could really help me. So I think there is definitely overlaps in many ways, even with TV programs,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, listen, that's been a great, chat around the career development plans and how you guys are tackling that. So if somebody's listening just now and they're looking at this, whether they're a smaller business or a larger organization, and sitting with a blank sheet of paper, have you got any maybe top 3 tips that you might give us just in terms of starting that career development plan process?
Yes, I think do what feels right for you as a business to develop that strategy. It needs to work for you. It needs to work for your goals, and it needs to work for your people. So perhaps speak to the people, focus groups, a survey, and just take them on that journey with you, because when it lands, they'll be much more engaged with that as well. Yeah. I think also look at having some core development pieces that fit across the whole business that can link maybe to your values if you have them as a business as well. And so that's like communication, like your behaviors, and everyone should be held accountable to those at all levels. So that's your core fundamentals, like of a core competency, for example. And then I think as well, and this is like how I feel like in the world of Creative Future, like don't be afraid to pivot, be agile, collect that regular feedback and make adjustments where it's required. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. Get it out there, get that feedback and amend as required. Like I said, I think our competencies are on version 3 now, because they're gonna change as the business evolves as well, and that's all right.
No, that's brilliant. That's absolutely spot on, because you need people to have that confidence to say, look, we're on version 3 now. We've adapted. It's not mistakes. It's we're adapting and growing and developing and making it better. So absolutely spot on. No, that's great. Thank you very much for your time today, Hayley. I really appreciate that. And I look forward to catching up again soon.
Yeah, thank you. Anytime.
Perfect. Thanks for listening to the Recruitment and Beyond podcast. Hopefully there was plenty of insight for you to take back to your teams. So don't forget to subscribe and never miss an episode. And if you can, leave us a review. We really appreciate all the feedback and support we get. It makes a massive difference.